And I'm joined right now on set here by Zeke Miller and Kevin Sheridan. Zeke is a CBSN political contributor and White House correspondent for Time. Kevin Sheridan, a Republican strategist. He served as communications director for Paul Ryan's 2012 vice presidential run. All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you, so Scaramucci says that he's going to stay the course. What will his mandate be, Kevin?
Well, I think Scaramucci brings a lot of credibility to the operation because he's a business success and he's good on camera. And I think those are two things that Trump values highly. I think he also embraces, he embraces Trump's helter-skelter communication style. He doesn't see it as a net negative. He sees it as a net positive. I think only time will tell whether or not he gets, we can get health care passed and tax reform done, and whether or not we're successful in 2018 and 2020 as Republicans to know whether or not that tweeting style and his one-off interviews and all of the crazy communication strategy that we would have rejected as a conventional way to do things in the past, whether or not it really hurts him or helps him in the end. And we don't know the answer to it yet. It helped him in the campaign. He won we all said these tweets are not helping. He's going to doom his own campaign, and he beat Hillary Clinton. So we just don't know yet.
Zeke, the fact that he doesn't have to report, he reports directly to the president, what does that say to you?
I mean, even the whole hiring itself gets to the broader point of, the president does things his own way. He's willing to try new things. He's willing to try things out, listen to Reince Priebus, listen to even Steve Bannon and say, we're going to have a traditional communications hand in the White House. But then when the going gets tough, he reverts back to his gut instinct. He wants people around him. He sort of governs by committee. He ran his businesses that way. A lot of people around him, sort of the hub and spoke model that other presidents have tried, haven't been very successful at. But so far, that system is what works for Donald Trump.
Do you think, Zeke, that the American people should even care that this change is happening?
I mean, this is not the thing that's going to change the lives of the average American person, other than that the daily briefing is probably not going to be as entertaining, though it hasn't been on camera for quite some time. But
do you think that'll change? Or do you get a sense, you were sitting in the White House, that we might see more briefings now?
I think, President Trump was watching yesterday. Obviously, Scaramucci's kiss at the end was directed at the audience of one, the president himself here. So, if it's a lot more of that, and the president also likes Sarah Sanders' performance on camera, I think we could see the return of some of these on-camera briefings. I think they like going off camera since that elevates the president on some days, but when the president's not doing anything, I think we're going to see more of them.
Kevin, on the subject of things that really affect the American public, I want to ask you about health care. Yeah. There's a sense that that's completely dead. I want to ask you about the women of the Senate. There is a bipartisan group of women who do tend to meet on a regular basis. There were 5 Republican women in the Senate. All 5 of them were shut out from creating this bill in the Senate on health care. 3 of them helped pull the plug on it ultimately. Do you think that the women of the Senate might be able to help resurrect some sort of compromise?
I don't know that it was a gender-based objection to the bill. It's not really great optics to just have men.
And it wasn't gender. There were men and women, but there were just men working on it.
Yeah, no, I think it's more fundamental than that, though. I think it's what Republicans stand for and whether or not we can actually deliver a promise to the American people. We were put in charge. Republicans were put in charge, campaigned on it for 8 years, said this is a problem, Obamacare is going to fail, we're the answer to fix it. If Republicans go back to the voters having done nothing, I don't know what you campaign on. And look, we're going to have to move to tax reform. You're going to be able to get something that's probably just a temporary tax cut, not a full reform without Obamacare, repeal and replace. I think it's really grim. The policy agenda will be on, it's on life support now. It'll be completely dead. We'll have nothing to run on in 2018.
What do you think, Zeke?
I think that, Kevin really really artfully described the problem that all Republicans are facing right now. They know they need to do something to be able to take back to their voters in 2018, 2020, but they don't know how to get there. There's not enough consensus in that party. In a way, you cannot craft a bill on something like this and get 52 votes or 50 votes in the Senate. They've tried it multiple times. It does not seem possible. And then taking that to the House. So I share that sort of grim prognosis. It doesn't seem that there is a path for them right now to get past any bit of legislation, and then where that goes from there, whether or not they lose the House or they lose the Senate, if those margins narrow. I mean, if Paul Ryan's margin in the House goes from 30 some odd votes down to 7 votes, I mean, can Paul Ryan remain the Speaker? You start looking at sort of the spiral for the Republican Party could really accelerate, and that could raise all sorts of questions.
It looks very grim right now, but remember the House was staring into the abyss as well, and it ended up resurfacing and passing. So I don't rule it out. I think, look, it's an existential question for the Republican Party. Can you deliver on a promise that you campaigned on? I think when enough pressure is put on these senators, there's a chance it could come back.
Zeke, what do you think the impact is of this Attorney General Sessions story with Kislyak?
Certainly, this, in the short term, it brings the Attorney General back into the president's orbit. They're now on the same side of this. The president's obviously frustrated with Sessions. He's been very vocal about that he recused himself. But now we saw the president this morning defending his Attorney General for, with his latest revelation. But sort of in the long term, it's just more fodder now for Robert Mueller. Raises more questions. I mean, these are conversations that hadn't been fully disclosed initially. So it's the drip nature of everything regarding Russia. It not only emboldens the special counsel, but also in the court of public opinion here, which is also, there's a legal track and then there's the political track to all of this. Gives raises more questions to the American people. Why why is there always, something else to come and it's always about Russia?
I do question that Post story a little, though. That's pretty thinly sourced. One U.S. official and one former U.S. official says something was intercepted that the Russian ambassador was saying, over the phone. Of course, the Russian ambassador may be trying to mislead U.S. intelligence, and this, this leak to the Washington Post is obviously designed to hurt Sessions. I don't know if it's coming from the West Wing to try and hurt Sessions, or it's just coming from Democrats on the Hill. I would just question the story generally because it seems pretty thin to me.
I want to ask you about the fact that Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort have now struck a deal about testifying. What do you make of that? I
mean, they really didn't have much of a choice. It was testify or agree to cut some sort of deal or be subpoenaed, and that was the optics of that for them would make it look like they had something to hide. They're going to start with a sort of an interview or closed testimony with staff and some of the senators. That's going to sort of allow them to sort of investigate, or narrow the areas of what they want to, where they want to see testimony in public. Obviously, Democrats want all of this, and out in front they see sort of a lot of areas where they can sort of back these men into a corner, or at least expose some of their ties to Russia publicly. In the case of Manafort, in particular, so it's going to be certainly for them. It's going to be an issue for them. How do they get out of that? I mean, but for the president, avoided a very public scandal or a public scene of the two of them testifying in public.
But Kevin, there is still this investigation that Robert Mueller is doing. What do you think that the president has to worry about the most when it comes to this investigation?
Well, if there's any real wrongdoing, and only he knows, and when he doesn't know, all of his satellites, whether or not they did anything wrong, but he certainly knows if he did. I'm still skeptical that they'll find anything on him. The others, it looks like there may be something there, but we just don't know yet. Look, there's a lot of hysteria about the Russia stuff. I think luckily, Robert Mueller is actually investigating this. We actually have a special prosecutor. The truth will come out in the end. I think you're already starting to see the shape of the president's legal team's defense, and that's going to be to go on offense and to go after the prosecutors. And look, Bill Clinton did this to Ken Starr, and he won. He was ultimately not convicted by the Senate. He won the public opinion war, and Republicans ended up losing in the next election. So, and his wife ran for president. So, there's a way out of this. It might not be great for the country, but that's the way he's going to go.
So you really believe public opinion has a huge
ultimately, it will on the Senate. They'll have to follow their constituents, and whether or not they actually think the crime rises to the level, if there is any. And first of all, we haven't seen any real crimes yet. We've just heard we've seen a lot of smoke.
Before we go, Zeke, I want to ask you, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that there was $1 billion in undisclosed loans, firms linked to Jared Kushner. What do you think that says, the fact that he's had to come forward again and disclose some more stuff?
Obviously, there's a reason why people like Jared Kushner and Anthony Scaramucci or Donald Trump don't find their way into the White House generally or government generally. It's very hard to disclose all of these things and get them in order. That said, there's generally a long period of time that anyone who enters government service, they sit down with their lawyers, they list all of their assets. In the case of Jared Kushner, we've seen, whether it be meetings with foreign officials, his various financial holdings, time and again, they've had to go back and amend those disclosures. Some of that is routine. At a certain point, though, the grace period, he's been in the White House now for 6 months, and they're still going back and having to make revisions. Does sort of raise questions about the process, at least the process they went through to get him into the White House.
All right, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. So nice to have you here on set.
Good to see you indeed.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thank you very much.